Hi, welcome. So I'd like to introduce Robert Botticelli. He's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Exergy, LLC. And I'm very anxious to learn about the company and more about what you do here on Long Island. So welcome, Bob, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Sure. So I've never heard Exergy, and so introduce the company and what you do there.
Sure, thank you. So Exergy has an interesting story. It started back in the 70s by a professor working at a university lab, basically. And a heat exchanger is often used in laboratory work because anything that needs to be either heated or cooled, whether it's water or any sort of a substance, there will be a heat exchanger in the process. And this individual started getting some requests from industry for unique type of heat exchangers, particularly heat exchangers that can be very small because of the limitations that certain customers had on size. And that's how it got started. And so this professor worked on one heat exchanger and slowly grew into a company. And it really took off in the 90s when the ownership was transferred to the Finkelstein family and what was at the time a company called Strahs-Lorenc, who was a much bigger player in heat exchangers. And actually the acquisition happened in the early 2000s. And so Strahs-Lorenc was in the aerospace and defense industry, making heat exchangers for much larger applications. And this was sort of a little niche piece of their business. Interestingly enough, the ownership of Strahs-Lorenc, when they sold to Amatec, the owner, his son Jordan, was working at the company, and they decided that this piece of the business, which was this niche business called Exergy, that they would like to keep that as an ongoing separate business. So they were able to do so. And Exergy has had significant growth ever since they've taken over the company. And it's been an exciting ride. So that's a little bit of the background.
Oh, neat, really neat. And how'd you find out about the company?
Well, originally I knew Mark Finkelstein, who was the owner, again, of Strahs-Lorenc. And being in the aerospace and defense business on Long Island, which we have a proud tradition of, I just knew a lot of the senior executives and many of the big companies, including Grumman Aerospace. And Strahs-Lorenc was doing a lot of business in aerospace and defense. So, of course, I would know Mark, and he had one of those personalities that was larger than life. So if you met Mark once, you knew Mark, a great guy. And so I knew of Strahs-Lorenc. I didn't specifically know of Exergy specific. But in recent years, when Strahs-Lorenc got sold and Jordan, the son, took over Exergy, some of the cronies of Mark who were in the aerospace industry started an advisory board to support Jordan, and I was asked to join that advisory board. So I've basically been directly associated with Exergy now for 9 years, originally as an advisory board, and most recently, the last 7 months, as their vice president of sales and marketing.
Okay, great. And your job as sales and marketing?
Yeah, so basically my job as sales and marketing is to make sure the business grows and makes money, right? And however, to be very honest, my background is very steep in continuous process improvement. So I look at my position, even though I obviously work for sales and I'm in sales and I run sales, and the organization looks at it this way too. It's not just me, but I look at it as if the core team, our staff, really all of our folks work as a team. So I help lead the sales area. But honestly, how we grow business has as much to do with design, engineering, operations. So bottom line is, I like to prefer to say I'm always working on continuous improvement. And that's throughout the entire organization, and obviously with a specific focus, in my case, on sales.
And your typical customer?
So typical customers, or I'll start by naming our biggest industries. So the two biggest industries we serve are pharmaceuticals, and semiconductor. And the reasons mostly are is because those industries are the high-end industries that require probably the most precise temperatures and need the most robust type heat exchangers that are going to last under more difficult environments that they might see in a general industry application. So those are the industries we serve, but we're also very much getting back to aerospace and defense. We serve aerospace and defense, uh, but there's an array. And when I say pharma, just to be more clear, we're literally talking about medicine factories. There's heat exchangers wherever medicines are being manufactured. But now with the COVID situation, honestly, pharma has a lot of focus, as you can imagine, on, vaccines and meds and anything related to supporting the COVID effort. And then, of course, semiconductor speaks for itself. So those are sort of the industries we serve. And but again, if you ever go into any sort of industrial environment, if there's any requirement to heat and cool anything, starting with water, but it could be chemicals, it could be other type of things. There's going to be a heat exchanger in play. But there's many different types of heat exchangers, and certainly we have competitors. However, we have our niche. Our focus has always been the miniature heat exchanger, and now we've also evolved to higher assemblies that require heat exchangers. For example, what's called the point of use system, which is used mostly in the pharma, in fact, exclusively right now in pharma, where they want to have a station where they can cool and heat water for various reasons, just to wash off tools or whatever the case might be. But the technical term is a point of use system.
Yes, so we're going to be showing that video later. It's very interesting.
Yes.
What about your reach? Is this regional, national? What is
Oh
your
no,
area?
this is very much global. What ends up happening is you follow your industry. So whether it's pharma, whether it's semiconductor, aerospace and defense, food, all of these industries are global. So our product is sold globally. We use an extensive rep and distributor organization to support us, as opposed to having direct employees overseas at the moment. We use more like agents and representatives that us, particularly on the sales side, that support our sales efforts. And in fact, this year, that's one of our focuses is overseas growth. There's a lot of potential for us overseas.
Tell us the kind of people who work there.
Well, it's a wonderful company. We have 40 some odd employees, and we have every department. We have accounting, we have sales, we have engineering, we have operations. Those are the major departments, and then we have just general marketing. So within those departments, you have expertise. I mean, I say operations. In operations, you have assemblers, you have inspectors, you have quality control people. It's an organization that needs an array of folks and an array of disciplines, if you will.
And some entry level kinds of positions. How do people enter sort of from the beginning?
Well, we're growing, and although COVID has put a little bit of a reins on things, more on supply chain, but our backlog is continuing to grow even during COVID. So we've been in a hiring mode, I'm going to say, since Jordan took over the company. He's had so much success with it that we've really never stopped hiring. Honestly, we probably haven't hired in the last few months because of the COVID situation. But we'll be back hiring again. The backlog is growing. And it's going to be every department. I mean, we're going to need people in every department. I mean, when you grow, it affects all departments. And, we're just transitioning now our systems to NetSuite, which for the size company we are, we're privately held. That's a wonderful, wonderful tool that's going to end up, I'm sure, creating even more jobs because we're going to get more efficient. We're going to get more sales. And as I say, we need people in every department.
And typically, how do you find employees?
It's a variety of ways. We use the typical online services, whether it's, Monster, or I guess what's the more popular one now?
ZipRecruiter,
Yeah, those type of services.
Indeed. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, so often it's word of mouth. I mean, as part of the advisory board, anytime Jordan would need someone in quality, the first call he'd probably make would be to the advisory board. And, we just know people on the island that have expertise. And, you tend to like to go with someone that or someone that gives a reference just because, you know them. I mean, I've done a lot of interviewing over the years, and I'm not ashamed to say that you just don't always get it right at the interview. It just doesn't work that way. So, yeah.
Right. And what kind of people do you look for? Are there any kind of personality traits or people, typical kinds of culture kind of things that people would do well
Yeah,
in?
we are, for a smaller company, we're probably a little bit more degree focused than most people would be. And I'm glad that we are. I do believe in, higher education. I think it gives people a well-rounded, understanding. Not that there haven't been, and there still are successful people at Exergy that came in, maybe started in operations and worked their way up, and we give those people an opportunity too if they have the right references and the right attitude. And then so besides background, education, experience, um, attitude. I mean, this is probably me speaking, but it's probably most people would agree. I mean, attitude to me, once the resume fits, and sometimes when the resume doesn't fit just quite right, even the attitude could get you over the top. Because if you have an employee that has the right attitude, then you can accomplish a lot. As far as a culture, very much team, very much continuous improvement oriented, because it's all about teamwork in the end. So.
So what do you see about the future of your company and the manufacturing industry here on Long Island?
Well, I'll start with the manufacturing industry on Long Island. I've also been part of and remain a part of some of the organizations on Long Island, namely, in my case, ADAPT, in addition to Ignite. And so I've been familiar with, manufacturing companies. And, to be very honest, I think sometimes we in Long Island overrate the cost issue, in the meaning that it is real. It's just more costly to buy milk here and to hire people here, and right on down the list. But I think what we're missing, and if we're going to survive on Long Island, as far as we're going to survive, but if we want to prosper in the way of manufacturing, I think we have to get much, much more serious about continuous improvement. I don't want to get on that whole bandwagon, so I'll save you that. But it's really about that. And if Long Island or any place is going to improve their manufacturing base, that's going to be a big part of it. But there's clearly, difficulty with competing overseas. There's no question about it. The labor is so much less. So that is a big hurdle to overcome. But through process improvement, you can overcome it. There is no other way. So. But it's a challenge. But I think what Long Island has, and I think we're starting to see more and more, to some degree to the detriment, but maybe with this working from home thing, it'll change. We have that wonderfully educated workforce, and we have a density of it. And so in the case of industries, we, like even pharma, we effectively have a supply chain right here on Long Island. There's quite a few pharma companies. So we're probably not doing it as good as we should be right now, which is coordinating with each other maybe a little bit better, from the perspective of, yes, as an individual company, I want to go market myself, but together we're a supply chain. We have people that make the heat exchanger, we have people that make the meds, we have people that make the capsules the meds go in, and all that right on down the line. So I think that's going to be an important, which kind of ties back into continuous improvement, frankly, but it's going to be an important requirement for Long Island companies to, and it's not just Long Island. I don't mean to pick on Long Island, because many industries and many companies, they have the right buzzwords about partnering and all those sort of things. But in most cases, they're just buzzwords. They have to become real. We have to understand that we are a supply chain, and whoever has that particular, efficiency, that's where the business has to go, as opposed to, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of people doing things that aren't their core competency. So I think that's how manufacturing is going to survive on Long Island. We have a lot of the expertise. The equipment's the equipment, anybody can buy it. So then it becomes, again, about process.
And you also stated about working together, that all of us really need to, demonstrate the value of being here and what we offer, which I think a lot of people don't realize. They don't.
No, it's very true.
Yes.
Well, like, for example, we want to attract companies for our industry. So what's happening during COVID is people are realizing what happens when you disrupt the supply chain. So, everybody was outsourcing, and I understand chasing the lowest price, get stuff manufactured in Korea or China. But now your supply chain is all over the place. So what places like Long Island and just honestly the larger tri-state area offers, you could do everything on Long Island. The whole supply chain could be there, and it's a much more manageable way, and it could attract people. And I'm talking about people like big companies that are realizing, I want to be near my supply chain, and I want my supply chain to be near me. I think we need to understand that, and maybe we could attract people to the island to make those industries that we serve, whatever they are. In this case, I'm speaking mostly of pharma. How do we make that, a yet stronger industry on Long Island?
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Yes. Well, the final thing is about our workforce. So you have some final words about the workforce for your industry and for your company?
Workforce in what sense? You meaning
the people who are trying to find direction. Many of them do not know about the kinds of companies we have here.
Yes.
Which is certainly part of what I'm trying to do here.
Oh, yeah. So what I recommend to people is the advice I got. I have to give credit to, I had a fellow named, his last name was Pappas, Pappas, from Fordham University, career placement. And he said to me that when you're looking to start your career, and it's very obvious advice, but sometimes we all skip the obvious. He said, take a hard look at the industry. Where's the industry going? Where's it going to be? So if I'm on Long Island and I'm in the workforce and I'm looking, what industries, that's my reminder, I apologize for my 9 o'clock. What industries are on Long Island? And in this case, I'm speaking of pharma. And what's the future? Well, obviously, with what's happening with COVID and just the need for meds in general and the population, aging, I think pharma is probably a very good, safe bet as far as an industry. Then once you select an industry, then you could say, well, what companies would I like to pursue in those industries that are on Long Island? And obviously, I would suggest you put Exergy to the top of your list because depending on what you're looking for, of course, but we're privately held. There's also, major corporations on Long Island, big corporations that are part of pharma, of course. But that would probably be my advice. Let's figure out first what industry you're looking for. And then again, do the search. Now with Google, that's the wonderful thing. Just Google pharmaceutical companies on Long Island. They'll pop right up.
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you so much. It's pretty exciting what you do and your reach. And hopefully people will now have your name on the map who didn't know it before. And thank you for sharing. It's really interesting.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
It's really my pleasure. And best to you always.
Same to you. Bye
Okay.
now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The pharmaceutical manufacturing industry requires complete elimination of microbial growth in order to meet the hygienic standards set by industry guidelines and requirements. The most common way is to use hot water stored and distributed between 80 and 85 degrees Celsius and reduce the temperature before dispensing at point of use. There are various methods used in the industry to provide this cooled water. In one method, Hot purified water from a stainless steel storage tank is cooled using an inline heat exchanger upstream of the dispensing point. Any water returned to the storage tank is then reheated with a second heat exchanger on its way back. Another method uses a valve and heat exchanger mounted on a T in the WFI loop. When the valve is opened, the water is cooled through the heat exchanger at the point of use. Using this method, the heat exchanger needs to be sanitized prior to each use. Such systems are vulnerable to bacterial contamination and require higher energy consumption. Exergy and HydroPure collaboration presents an innovative and cost-effective point-of-use system. Our point-of-use system has either a pitot tube or a controlling valve in the main loop header that diverts a continuous flow of hot water through the system, thereby creating a parallel or subloop. When required, the system dispenses instant, temperature-controlled water for injection or purified water. When not in use, the continuous flow of hot water maintains sanitization and prevents microbial growth. Our unique point-of-use system has enhanced bacterial control. It eliminates the potential for cross-contamination with the double-tube sheet heat exchanger design. It minimizes pressure drops across the unit. Our POU offers convenience with a touchscreen HMI and remote access capabilities. It reduces power consumption, and its many features and options can be customized. The system utilizes Exergy's sanitary shell and tube heat exchanger with a countercurrent flow arrangement, which cools the water fast and efficiently. All product contact surfaces in the heat exchanger, valves, pipes, and fittings are compliant with ASME BPE guidelines. The process and utility lines inside the cabinet are insulated with ASTM-C-compliant chloride and asbestos-free materials. It's compact and can be easily installed in the manufacturing area. Our every POU system is fully validated before shipment. A full documentation package is provided, which includes DQ, FAT, SAT, IQ, OQ, material certifications, weld logs, and manuals. Together, we are proud to simplify and redefine the manufacturing process in the pharma industry.